Hey everybody, welcome to the Pixel Vision Podcast, episode 3. I'm Tony, and of course I have with me Mark
I'm afraid to even say anything, but hi.
and, and Cole.
Hello. No, I'm not going to do it again this
All
week.
Yeah. So today's topic is of course on gamer rage. So gamer rage has become somewhat of an issue. Actually, I would say the past 2 years we've been seeing a lot of talk about gaming violence. More than usual, I should say.
Yeah, violence and video games are always two things that people try to pair together, like spaghetti and meatballs. But especially it's more like verbal harassment rather than like physical violence, and a lot of like articles now that you see and things like that.
Yes, actually, that is an extremely good point. Before, it always talked about, these video games promote violence, video games do this and that. It's the video games themselves. And even after countless studies, the scientists have always said the same thing. No, it doesn't. So, but now we're starting to see, with people getting online and, with competitions, especially, like with Call of Duty and things like that, where you're facing against other people, you sometimes say things that maybe you wouldn't say, in like a public train or something
Yeah,
like that. You use a lot of racial slurs and homophobic slurs and just everything, you know. And I mean, I've been playing games online since high school, which was, they'll be shocked when I say this, like 12 or 13 years ago when I was playing like on especially on Counter Strike. That was a huge game online. People would type mean things out, and they even had microphones back then where people would talk a lot of crap to one another. So now that of course is getting really big. Recently at the South by Southwest festival, they actually had two panels about gaming. One was on online harassment. The other was, well, they put in quotes, integrity of gaming journalism, which we all know is Gamergate. Well, both panels are trying to say one side is worse than the other, and they started making threats of violence towards each other. So South by Southwest decided to cancel it. They didn't want to cancel it, but the threats were getting so bad that they figured, this is getting out of hand, and somebody actually might do something with these threats. Honestly, I don't think they would, but you never know with people
yeah,
these days. And I guess I kind of see why they would stop it, especially since this is something that's been going on for so long, and people have been throwing shit at each other back and forth. We got people like Anita Sarkeesian saying that video games, promote sexism, and if you play the games, you're going to be sexist. I agree that some games are sexist, but I really don't think that they would make you sexist.
well,
That's
I think I don't know. I don't want to jump like so deep into it when you're still kind of like introducing the whole topic, but I think like with just like with the violence in video games thing, if you have sort of like if it's within you to already lean that certain way, then yeah, those things might sway you. Like I don't think video games make nonviolent people
violent.
violent. I think video games make people who probably already have some lingering mental health issues violent. I would agree with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
'Cause-
Oh, yeah. I
but
would
in
agree with
that
that too.
case, so do movies and television and books and music and anything else. It's just
Hmm.
the whole violent video games like political stance is kind of dated at this point. It's from like the 80s and 90s when games were still new and parents were still so concerned about what their kids were playing. And I think maybe not. It's weird. It seems like maybe a lot of the mainstream has moved past that, but maybe there's still some like really vocal minorities, not actual minorities, but like a vocal minority of people that are still screaming loud enough to make it seem like this is a huge concern. But I think largely people have moved past that and are starting to recognize games as just as another form of media.
Yeah. Yeah. Another form of art, if people find it to be art and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
Well, can I ask, how about since you guys both, are raising children, do you imagine you're gonna censor what they can play on their game systems if they want to play a game that might be, rated teen or mature and they're not at that point yet, will you be censoring them at all?
It depends on what it is, I guess. I always juggle this right now because my son's just 3, so like he sees that I play and he sees that my girlfriend plays, and he likes getting involved in it, and depending on the game, he'll watch. He really loves Rocket League right now, which is that
Mm,
awesome like soccer with cars game on PS4 and PC. Um,
mhm.
so like that, I think is totally acceptable. We just play that together, and he's starting to understand like sports and scorekeeping and competition and like that. It's taught him a lot of those sort of things.
Mm.
Um,
Well, and did you guys grow up in a household where you weren't allowed to play maybe more mature focused games or violent games?
No,
no, never.
yeah, I played.
Yeah.
I was watching Hellraiser when I was 8, so
Yeah, I think I saw like all the Nightmare on Elm Streets and played
yeah.
Mortal Kombat when I was like
Well,
5 or 6,
like
maybe
what
7.
my son plays Call of Duty. He likes the Call of Duty games. I actually put it on paintball mode just because, just so he doesn't think he's killing
Oh,
people.
Oh,
I
they
didn't
have
know they
that?
had
Yeah,
that.
yeah, they do. Like but all it does is it turns the blood like a yellowish green color. They make it look like, oh, you're
Mm.
playing paintball, which is kind of cool. I actually
Yeah.
like that. I think more games should do stuff like that. I
Wow.
mean,
Wait, how long have they been doing that? I've never heard of
I
that.
don't know. I just did with the recent one with Advanced Warfare.
I might be new then. Huh.
It might be, it might not be.
What's interesting, you,
I think those were cool ideas. I mean, I don't think they should be forced to do it, but if they want to do it, I 100% support something like that. But for my son, I remember he was like 5 years old, and someone, I can't remember who it was. It was like a family friend. Anyways, so a friend who wasn't they weren't my friend, but a friend of the family. So they were watching my son play. They go, "Hey, you know this game's bad, right? You know you're killing people in this game." And my son looked right at him and goes, "It's a video game. It's like it's not real." I'm just like, yeah. I'm like over in the side of the corner, pumping my fist. Yeah, go
Mhm.
son.
Have you guys ever like that? That seems like a run-in with somebody who maybe disagrees with our opinion of, you know, not letting younger kids play games because it might affect them. But have you had a very in-depth discussion with one of those people? I bring that up because I had a really great discussion that I'd like to talk about, but I wanted to ask you guys if you've had that kind of situation where you're talking to maybe a non-gamer who does view these games as like 100% detrimental to a kid's, I don't know, character and stuff like that.
I don't
Uh,
know if I ever I don't know if I've ever had that talk where it went very well with anybody.
yeah.
Like they just won't listen to you.
Yeah, I can already tell. Just if someone to me, and this is just me saying this, if somebody truly 100% believes that, I think them
Mhm.
as a person, I don't want to be associated with. So because I can already tell what kind of person that they are. So um,
As long as you don't want to be violent towards them,
well,
that's
yeah,
okay.
no, I mean, people should be allowed to express their opinion. It's just like with the like. All right, I don't agree with Anita Sarkeesian, whatever her name is, about games being 100%. I think that there are negative impacts with video game when it comes to stereotypes of everybody, male, female, white, black, um, culture. Do I think there's some negatives looking bad upon them? Sure, absolutely. But do I think it actually is causing an issue or a problem? No, I don't. And I also believe that as a game developer, you should be allowed to make whatever you want. Unless I have money into it, unless I'm putting money into it, then I shouldn't have a say on a game. So at that point,
Hmm.
if they're doing something I don't like, and so, there are some games where I just don't agree with it, maybe in a way, or I just don't care for what they're doing, then I don't buy it. I don't sit there
Hmm.
and complain about it, saying this game should not exist, this or that. It's like no, that's when I'm taking away their right to do what they
Mm.
want, especially when
Well,
it doesn't involve me and it doesn't hurt me in any way or
well, that's
anybody
something
else.
they just announced recently. I'm not sure if it's 100% yet, but it's in the talks of the new Xenoblade that's coming to the US. Apparently, one of the characters can wear like the bikini outfit or whatever, you know, that you can unlock or something, but they're gonna censor it for the North America because it's I guess the character's like a 13-year-old girl, and so
Oh,
they're I don't know, not okay with it
that's
here, but then I think in Japan
well,
it's
Yeah, it's like a
fine.
difference of
well,
culture.
yeah, well, yes, it's totally a different culture. It has nothing to do with. A lot of people will think it's like race. It's like no, it's just the way the culture is. But I can kind of understand that. They're when you're sexualizing somebody that clearly shouldn't. I see. That's just one of those things because I can sit there
But
and
you just
say
said there shouldn't be any lines.
exactly. You're right, but at the same time though, there are and you're right. I am being a hypocrite with something like that because I guess at the same time with me having children and friends who have little girls and stuff like that, when you see
Hmm.
when you're like overly sexualizing them, and I mean that's the reason why people buy certain games is because I mean you want your main character to look good. You don't want a fat blob Nathan Drake climbing up a mountain,
Yeah, yeah.
heaving
I
the whole
mean,
time, going, "Why am I doing this?"
well, but like even though they do that too, like in the Tekken game, they've got Bob, who's like, a big, massive dude, and it kind of plays that like fantasy role of this
Yeah,
dude who's really large, but he can still do these amazing cartwheel kicks and stuff like
yeah.
that.
Doesn't he like
Uh,
doesn't he like pull out like fried chicken or something like that when he wins?
he might, yeah. But like I have the one on the Wii
Jesus.
U, and there's actually a skinny Bob, which I think is hilarious. Well, and like also too, like as I should mention, like I did a study abroad in Japan for 6 months, and being over there was most everyone is in fairly good shape. And speaking of like weight, the height ratio kind of thing, and also like they're not at all afraid of like commenting on your weight. Like if you're fit, you're skinny, you're fat, like within moments of knowing the person, they can be like wow, you're fat, and it's not nearly as weighted as it is here, kind of like the politically correctness that we have. It's just like, oh, they made an observation and they spoke their mind.
No, I mean people should be allowed to. I don't think you should sit there and shame the person for it, but at the same time, I don't think you should glorify it either. I think if somebody wants to be fat, they should be fat, but you shouldn't sit there and just say, you're worthless, you're pathetic, you'll never be anything because you're fat. It's like, okay, now you're taking it a little too far. Or you could tell the person, you know, being fat isn't good for you. It's not good for your health, your heart,
Well,
especially.
that's what I think the way that I could relate to it is that they're not afraid to say it because it's in a way they feel like they're kind of helping the person. They're like saying, "Hey, I'm noticing this about you."
Nah, you're pathetic.
Um,
I've been noticing
I
this.
don't know if
You're
I don't
quite
know if
pathetic.
they'd say that, but
Well, so let's get back onto the topic of gamer rage.
Well, that
We
sort of
well,
plays into it
yeah,
because that's where a lot of the harassment comes from, I
yeah,
guess.
no, yeah, you're right too. Yeah, telling people online, and that's what happened with the South by Southwest. They were just they were in such a disagreement with each other that they started threatening each other, and that's when it gets out of hand. You could disagree with somebody and still respect their opinion, especially for something like this when it comes into
well,
video games.
and
You
that
know,
goes back to when I asked you guys if you had talked to somebody who was a non-gamer about this issue. And in college, I was dating a girl who had a really close friend who grew up in a household who she never watched TV, never played video games, and so she kind of only
that
was introduced
poor
to
person.
games. Like she was like a very outgoing, very like outdoorsy. Like I live in the mountains and went to school in a mountain town, so she had lots of opportunities to hike and ski and stuff. And so on this occasion, me and her were driving up to go snowboarding, and it was just me and her, so we got to talk a lot. And at the time, I was playing a lot of Counter-Strike Source, and
Good
I
for
don't
you.
know what brought up. What's that?
I said good for you.
Yeah, it
I
was.
love that game.
I was the greatest point of my life probably in gaming. Um, but so yeah, we got to talking about video games, and the only thing she knew about it was secondhand people talking about it or reading
Yeah,
articles
other
or
other
things
people's
like
Yeah,
that.
experiences.
probably a lot of
Sure.
talking points.
Yeah, and so when she kind of asked me, like, she first of all she said she's really surprised that I like those games, almost as if I didn't come across as a person who might, because she imagined them to be possibly, somewhat aggressive, violent people in real life, which we'll get to in gaming rage.
Overweight and sweating,
Yeah,
out
sure.
of
Yeah, not
control.
liking to go to the mountain, go snowboarding or whatever. And so I was like, all right, this is like a perfect opportunity to kind of crush any stereotypes and target. And there was no heated debate going on whatsoever, but it was really interesting because she went from the beginning of the conversation thinking only gamers and aggressive, violent people would want to play these things, and those kind of people don't enjoy other things. But I kind of right away when told her like that's me, and I play 10 hours a week. She was surprised by that, but then also we had a great discussion of why. I don't know if you guys have analyzed this yourselves, but like why we like games where you're shooting people. And my explanation was that in real life, in the way we've probably evolved, it's like our most instinctual instinctual, yeah, like our instincts.
Yeah.
We want to like go on the ultimate hunt, and first person shooters, third person shooters usually allow the most control and the most gameplay mechanics because not only are there different hitboxes on the arms, the body, the head, and things like that,
Hmm.
and you have like they're typically the hardest to control games. You'd never throw a beginner gamer into a first person shooter, and so it's just like the top of the line kind of action skill that you could get in a game. And so when I told her that, I was like, that's why we like it. We don't like it because we're killing people necessarily. It's because in order to kill somebody, they have 100% the same amount of mobility I do. And if I'm able to get that shot off before they do, then you just feel really good about that because it was so difficult, not because you're taking someone's life, because you're not. They just start again.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
it's
just,
it's fun.
I mean, if we're talking multiplayer, it's just competitive spirit like any other sport, really, you know?
Yeah, like
Hmm.
And
if
then,
you're playing soccer or basketball or anything like that.
yeah, and then I'd
Hmm.
also add before you go on, Cole,
Sure.
the fact that like when she asked, what's the deal with all this killing, like not every game I like has that, but I think it's easy to create a story involving like violent conflict because conflict is storytelling. You know that like the
Hmm.
Joseph Campbell when he talks about like the hero's journey, it's like there's something that your character wants, the protagonist needs something or desires something, he or she tries to attain it, and like there's a very specific structure to it, and a lot of stories in any medium, not just games, will follow that hero's journey structure, and without conflict, it's often literally not even a story. I mean, you might see like some really like heady short film like Sundance or something that's like the dude on American Beauty. If you guys have ever seen that, that just
Hmm.
films the paper bag floating. I mean, the plastic bag
Hmm.
floating around.
Yeah.
But typically, like conflict is absolutely necessary for story, and if you're going to have
Hmm.
conflict,
Conflict is
yeah,
necessary just to life in general. I mean, it's kind of like on the Matrix when the machines are talking about giving humans an actual utopia, and we rejected it because we
Hmm.
had not we couldn't really do anything. We already had everything that we wanted, and it's something that drives you in a way to continue being better or just to strive for something. If you're just sitting there just doing nothing because all your goals are sort of met, I mean, it can kind of wear on the mind, I think.
yeah. But I'm sorry, I wanted to hear the rest of your story too, Cole. I wanted to make
Oh,
that
no.
point that conflict is absolutely a vital part of storytelling in
And you
any
tell
form.
her that when you see her. You run to her face and said,
Well,
"My friend Mark said this."
well, and that's kind of, I'm really glad, Mark, that you said that because that was my main point of telling the story was just to, hopefully get your guys' take on, me and my friends, interaction. And that's actually a direction we went was then we kind of talked about books and stuff. And so I kind of asked her, like, do you think, someone who reads violent books would be a violent person, And I don't remember exactly, but I don't think she at all thought that there would be a correlation there at all where
Huh.
like because reading and since a very young age is seen as such a beneficial hobby. Like if you read, you're
Yeah.
like, oh wow, you must be really smart and you've got all this time and all this stuff that all this knowledge that you've been acquiring.
It's
And
just Twilight books.
true, yeah, I mean a lot of people that do read, they're reading stuff that are very similar to video game stories. um
Yeah, I had a we're I guess well, first of all, I want to mention that this episode's probably veering into like violent video game talks just as much as gamer rage, but I think that's cool, so we shouldn't like worry about that too much.
Yeah.
But
mm,
that reminds me, before I moved last year, I had a coworker back in Massachusetts who she seems like kind of like this person that you were talking about, Cole, where she
mm,
had never really played games and didn't really understand the appeal of it at all, and we got talking sort of like you did, and she expressed when I asked her about it, she expressed that she thinks reading any book, literally any book, would be more beneficial to a person than playing any video game. And I just thought that was absurd. I was like, so like, I could have said like Dr. Seuss or something, but I went with like an adult to an adult like transition, so I was like, so you think reading Kim Kardashian's like biography is better than playing like BioShock or something,
Yeah.
Like where one clearly has like a message to deliver, and the other one is just like basically like tabloid trash, you know. And she even then she stood her ground. She's like, yeah, I think so. I was like, I mean, I guess that's opinion, but
Well,
Well,
that
so the
is all it
sad thing
is.
is though, you have read books and you're talking to her, but she probably hadn't ever played a game.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Like that's why I really respected my friend was she never wanted to make any accusations, but she wanted to let me know
Well, yeah, you guys had two
what her
different
feelings were.
yeah, you guys had two different situations. Mark had a person that didn't have an open mind and wasn't
Hmm.
willing to learn. You had a person that was clearly interested in your opinion and also open to what you were going to say. You know,
Hmm.
and she could still disagree in somewhat of a way, but the fact that she at least acknowledged what you said and took it to heart, or at least opened her mind towards it, and that's the other thing too, is that you're always going to find people who just think that, okay, it doesn't matter what the other person says, this is the way I think. It doesn't matter what evidence they give me, or shows what's wrong with my side. I'm not going to change my opinion no matter what. And you can't debate or even express yourself to that type of person. It's kind of like, like the Ken Ham and Bill Nye debate. No
Hmm.
matter, as
Yeah.
like they said at the end, what would change your mind? Ken Ham, nothing, and then Bill
Hmm.
Nye, evidence. So,
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong. I'm saying this right now. If you believe what you believe, that's absolutely fine. But when you're trying to debate in any topic, no matter what it is, if you have that that general setting in your mind, it's not going to be a debate at that point. It's just gonna be a person yelling and then plugging his ears, going la
Stomping
la
their
la la
feet.
la.
Yeah.